happening in the UN Human Rights Council is the special advisor to the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation and seasoned diplomat Tuliameni Kalomoh. Very good afternoon to you, Ambassador, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. Just when we thought the Trump administration would not pull another rabbit from the hat, they have decided to withdraw from the Human Rights Council. And as a superpower, what implications do you think that will have?
Well, thank you very much for having me. Obviously, superpower or no superpower, all the members of the United Nations would want to have a representative human rights council, a council dedicated to upholding the core values contained in the Declaration of Human Rights of 1948. So I think the move to withdraw should be regrettable for every people who respect democracy, respect human rights, and respect the diversity of opinion. But the withdrawal of them, the United States obviously will have implications, specifically financial implications. I do not know the percentage, but normally they are the biggest contributor to the budget of the United Nations, including Human Rights Council, I suppose. I believe. I do not know the figures. But be that as it may, the work of the United Nations Human Rights Council will continue. You recall that it will not be the first time that the United States has withdrawn from a United Nations organ. In 1980s, they withdrew from UNESCO because the developing countries at the time were demanding for new international economic and information order. So the Reagan administration did not like it, and they withdrew from UNESCO. They withdrew again, I believe last year, because of the admission of the Palestinian state or the state of Palestine to UNESCO. They withdrawn. Obviously, the UNESCO and now the Human Rights Council will have to scale down some of their programs, but they will retain their core programs of defending human rights wherever they are abused and violated. You will also, as Namibians will recall that in the 80s again, during the Reagan administration, they withdrew funding from the United Nations Council for the United Nations Institute for Namibia, at the time headed by Director Hage Geingob, who is now President of the Republic of Namibia. The United Nations Institute for Namibia did not collapse. They had to reorganize their own programs, but if anything, they thrived. So we regret the withdrawal, but we believe that the work of the United Nations Human Rights Council will continue.
Now, the U.S. is claiming that, or the Trump administration is claiming that the Council has become the protector of human rights abuses, and it's went as far as calling it a cesspool of bias. And it says that they are also elected to the Council. Is there any basis for this accusation? And seeing that America has diplomatic relations with countries like Saudi Arabia, which is carrying out atrocities in Yemen, it's diplomatic relations with countries that are like Israel that are carrying out atrocities in Palestine. And if anything is to go by, America's own human rights track record isn't that clean. We have seen the abuse in Abu Ghraib prison and in Guantanamo Bay. What do you have to say about that?
Well, it's rather ironic that one of the reasons that the United States has advanced to withdraw from the Human Rights Council is that Israel is the supposed bias by the Council against Israel. The irony is that the recent debate in both the UN, in the Human Rights Council and the General Assembly was the excessive and disproportionate use of force by Israel against the Palestinians, Protestants. These people, protesters, protesting against the occupation of their territory by Israel. They were mowed down mercilessly and in cold blood. And for countries, for the United States to use that as an excuse of withdrawing from the Council and then accuse other countries of being abusers of human rights is is mind-boggling and very ironic.
Let's talk a little bit about what we just saw on that incident in regards to these children that are being separated from their parents at the Mexican border on the basis that the parents are trying to get into America illegally. Now, the same administration that is calling for reform for and being an advocate for human rights, the same country that's carrying out these activities in their own countries, isn't that a bit of a contradiction there?
Well, just 4 days ago, UN member states, but particularly Africa, specifically Namibia, South Africa, we observed the Day of the Child, that is June 16. And these 2,000 children plus from Mexico and Central America are separated from their parents at the time when we are observing the day when the children of South Africa were massacred in Soweto. So we think that for a country that has, since its existence, introduced a lofty document, the Constitution of the United States, that has made the respect for human rights at the center of its domestic and foreign policy, I am dumbfounded that a leader, a father, a parent can defend the separation of children from their parents. It's simply unacceptable.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, what do you think is likely to happen in the view of the effectiveness of the Council with the absence of the United States?
I made an example of UNIN, UN Institute for Namibia and Lusaka. I made an example of UNESCO in the 1980s and recently. They will scale down their operations, mm-hmm. but the core functions of the UN Human Rights Council will continue. Member states will rearrange, but it's the most viable and the most international forum where countries find their commonalities in their commitment to respect human rights. So I think there will be some rearrangement of functions, but I think the core functions will remain.
All right. Ambassador Kalomoh, thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure talking to you. I really appreciate it. And that was the Special Advisor to the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ambassador Kalomoh, shedding a bit of light and making sense